The Toronto Blue Jays made a move that immediately got people talking, and not because of a blockbuster trade or a superstar signing, but because of something that might be even more important for the long-term identity of the team. The organization decided to lock in two of the main figures behind the scenes, extending both their manager and their general manager after a season that completely changed the narrative around this franchise. When a team reaches that level, when it pushes deep and proves it can compete at the highest stage, decisions like these start to carry a lot more weight. Let's start with the man in the dugout, because this is where emotions usually run the highest. John Schneider is a name that has divided opinions at different points, and that's completely normal when you're talking about someone in charge of in-game decisions. Every move gets analyzed, every substitution gets questioned, and every mistake gets amplified. But if you zoom out for a second and really look at his journey, the progression is hard to ignore. This is not the same manager from his early days. The hesitation that used to frustrate fans has slowly turned into confidence, and those delayed decisions are now happening with much more conviction. What stands out the most is how he has evolved without losing his identity. Schneider has always been a very hands-on leader, someone deeply connected to his players, and that hasn't changed. What did change is the way he applies that connection during games. He's quicker now, more assertive, and far more willing to trust his instincts in big moments. That shift doesn't just happen overnight. It comes from experience, from learning the hard way, and from being willing to admit that there's always room to grow. And growth is really the key word here. Because no matter how good a manager is, mistakes are part of the job. It doesn't matter if you're managing your first game or your 1,000th. There will always be decisions that don't work out. The difference is how you respond to them. Schneider has shown that he doesn't shy away from those moments. Instead, he adjusts, studies, and comes back better. That kind of mindset is exactly what you want leading a clubhouse, especially one filled with talent and expectations. Another factor that can't be overlooked is the environment he's helped create. Baseball isn't just about what happens between the lines. It's about personalities, chemistry, and managing relationships that can sometimes be just as complex as the game itself. A team can have all the talent in the world, but if the clubhouse isn't aligned, things fall apart quickly. Schneider has managed to build a group that genuinely plays for each other, and that says a lot about his leadership style. What makes his approach even more interesting is how he handles different types of players. Not everyone responds to the same kind of coaching, and understanding that is crucial at this level. There are veterans who thrive on intensity, who want to be challenged directly, and who feed off confrontation. Then there are younger players who need confidence, guidance, and a different kind of communication to bring out their best. Balancing those dynamics is not easy, but it's something Schneider has clearly improved at. You can see in the way players respond to him, both on and off the field. There's a level of trust there that doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's built over time, through consistency and through showing players that you're invested in their success. That trust becomes even more important during tough stretches, when pressure starts to build and every decision feels magnified. Having a manager who can keep the room together in those moments is invaluable. Then there's the energy he brings, which is something fans have definitely noticed. He's not afraid to show emotion, not afraid to stand up for his players, and not afraid to get involved when things get heated. That fire can sometimes be the difference in a long season, giving the team a spark when it needs it most. It also sends a message that the players aren't alone out there, that their manager has their back no matter what. When you combine all of that with the results the team just achieved, the extension starts to make even more sense. This isn't just about rewarding past success. It's about believing in the direction things are heading. The organization sees a manager who is still improving, still adapting, and still finding new ways to get the most out of his roster. And in a sport where consistency is everything, that kind of upward trajectory is something you want to hold on to. Of course, the conversation doesn't stop there, because alongside Schneider, the front office also made a major commitment to Ross Atkins. And this is where things get even more interesting, because while managers are often judged game by game, general managers are evaluated over years. Every move, every contract, every trade becomes part of a bigger picture that takes time to fully come together. Atkins has been at the center of that picture for a while now, and it hasn't always been smooth. There were moments when the direction of the team was questioned, when certain decisions didn't deliver the expected results, and when patience started to wear thin. That's the reality of building a competitive roster in modern baseball. Not every move will work, and sometimes the process takes longer than fans would like. But what we're seeing now is the result of that process starting to pay off. The roster that took the field and made that deep run didn't just appear overnight. It was built piece by piece through signings, trades, and player development. Atkins played a major role in shaping that group, and whether you agreed with every decision or not, the outcome speaks for itself. That's why this extension carries so much significance. It's not just about what has already been accomplished, but about what comes next. The Blue Jays are not in a rebuilding phase anymore. They're in a window where expectations are high, and every season matters. Keeping the same leadership in place suggests that the organization believes this group can continue to compete at that level and possibly take the next step forward. And when you shift the focus fully to Ross Atkins, that's where the conversation becomes even deeper, because evaluating a general manager is never just about one season. It's about understanding the timeline, the risks taken along the way, and how all those decisions eventually connect. Atkins took over during a period where the foundation of the team was already transitioning, and that meant he had to navigate through different phases before reaching this current moment. Early on, there were expectations that didn't materialize the way people hoped. The emergence of young stars brought excitement, but it also created pressure to win immediately. And that balance between developing talent and competing at a high level is one of the hardest things to manage in baseball. There were seasons where the pieces didn't quite fit, where the roster looked strong on paper but didn't translate into the results fans were expecting. During those stretches, criticism toward Atkins grew louder, and many questioned whether he was the right person to lead the organization forward. But what stands out now is how those earlier moves have started to align. The players he invested in, the structure he built, and even the risks he took in key moments are now forming a more complete picture. This past run wasn't just a hot streak or a lucky break. It was the result of years of adjustments, learning from mistakes, and refining the approach. That doesn't mean every decision was perfect, far from it, but it shows that there was a long-term vision in place. One of the biggest debates surrounding this extension revolves around the length of the deal. Committing multiple years to a general manager always sparks discussion, especially when there have been ups and downs along the way. But when you think about the responsibilities tied to that role, it starts to make more sense. Building a competitive team isn't something you can do in a short window. Contracts, player development, and roster construction all operate on timelines that require patience. If you limit a general manager to a very short deal, you're essentially asking them to think short-term, and that can lead to decisions that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the organization's future. By giving Atkins a longer runway, the Blue Jays are signaling that they want continuity. They want a clear plan that extends beyond just the next season. And that becomes even more important when you consider how quickly things can change in baseball. Players come and go, contracts expire, and new opportunities arise. Having someone in place who understands the system, the prospects, and the overall direction of the team provides stability during those transitions. There's also the reality that the current roster won't stay the same forever. As key players approach the end of their deals, tough decisions will have to be made. Do you extend certain players? Do you retool around a new core? Or do you make bold moves to keep the championship window open? Those are the kinds of questions that fall directly on the general manager's shoulders, and giving Atkins this extension ensures that he'll be the one guiding those decisions rather than passing them off to someone new midway through the process. At the same time, there's an argument to be made about urgency. This is a team that has already proven it can reach a high level, and with that comes the expectation to sustain it. Some might wonder if a shorter contract could have added extra pressure, pushing for more aggressive moves in the immediate future. But the counterpoint is that pressure already exists. When you're managing a team with championship expectations, Every decision is under the microscope regardless of contract length. What makes this situation even more intriguing is how last season may have influenced everything. There's always a question of whether a deep run represents a true turning point or if it could be an outlier. In sports, one great season can sometimes shift perception dramatically, but the challenge is proving that it wasn't just a one-time peak. For Atkins, this extension now ties his future directly to answering that question. Can he build on that success and keep the team in contention year after year, or will the organization look back and wonder if that moment was the exception rather than the standard? Another layer to this is how the internal system has developed. The pipeline of young talent is something that organizations rely on to stay competitive over time, and there are signs that the Blue Jays have been strengthening that area. Draft picks, player development, and strategic acquisitions all play a role in maintaining depth, and those elements often don't get as much attention as major league signings. But in the long run, they can be just as important. Atkins' approach has clearly involved building that foundation, even if it required patience from the fan base. There were moments when it felt like certain prospects could have been used as trade assets to accelerate success, and those decisions always come with risk. Holding on to young players can pay off if they develop into key contributors, but it can also backfire if they don't reach their potential. So far, it looks like the organization is starting to benefit from that patience, which adds another layer of validation to the extension. Still, none of this guarantees what comes next. Baseball has a way of humbling even the most well-constructed teams, and momentum can shift quickly. Injuries, slumps, and unexpected challenges can change the trajectory of a season in an instant. That's why the role of a general manager is so critical, because it's not just about building the roster before the season starts. It's about adapting as things unfold. And that brings everything back to why this decision matters so much right now. The Blue Jays are at a point where they have to prove that they belong among the elite teams consistently, not just for one season. They've shown flashes, they've made a statement, but sustaining that level is a completely different challenge. With both the manager and the general manager now locked in, the organization is clearly betting on continuity, on growth, and on the belief that what they've built is strong enough to keep pushing forward. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. A quiet buzz is beginning to build around the Los Angeles Dodgers camp, and insiders suggest that one of the organization's most intriguing young names could be on the verge of a breakout that reshapes expectations heading into the Major League Baseball 2026 season. While no official confirmation has surfaced, whispers circulating among scouts and analysts point to a rising prospect who has steadily climbed into conversations alongside 5 other candidates tipped to explode onto the national stage. The Dodgers, long known for their ability to develop elite talent, appear to have uncovered yet another gem. This particular player, still flying slightly under the radar compared to more established stars, has reportedly impressed during internal evaluations with a rare blend of athleticism, composure, and rapidly evolving game intelligence. Those close to the organization hint that coaches have been quietly amazed by the pace of his development, especially in high-pressure scenarios that often separate potential from true impact. What makes the speculation more compelling is the timing. The Dodgers are entering a phase where roster depth meets opportunity, and sources indicate that this young talent could be positioned to seize a meaningful role sooner than expected. Observers believe that if given consistent playing time, he has the tools not just to contribute, but to shift momentum in key stretches of the season. Comparisons are already being drawn behind the scenes, with some suggesting his trajectory mirrors past breakout stars who went from relative obscurity to headline status almost overnight. Still, the organization remains publicly reserved, offering no hints that would confirm the growing excitement. For now, it remains a rumor, one of those stories that gains traction in clubhouses and among insiders before reaching the broader spotlight. Yet if even part of the speculation holds true, The Dodgers may once again be on the verge of unveiling a talent capable of redefining expectations and adding another chapter to their reputation as a powerhouse of player development. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.